Oh, well, give me your Ukanan, since we're over here. Your Ukanan. Listen to the book.
For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning.
That's why I appreciate that. A lot of time people try to figure out, I guess, what's the benefit when you go back to read. I never kind of actually thought about it that way, but the more I kind of look at it, I can see it's a benefit when I go back to
before a sword, when none pursueth, and ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies. About 30% of America's founding fathers owned over 1,300 slaves. Slaves were also owned by 11 of 16 United States presidents during the time of slavery. As pointed out in the scriptures, those which hate you shall rule over you was clearly seen in those who formed the government of the United States, as they could not contain their intense hatred of the children of Yah. Even the Declaration of Independence did not address the slave trade, slavery, or the plantation system, so the assurance that all men are created equal did not apply to the slaves. Joel 3:3-6, and they have cast lots for my people, and given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border.
The word Jesus came from a Greek word, Jesus. And the Greek word Jesus was a Greek deity. And the word, as a matter of fact, the letter J was never in the original Hebrew language nor the Greek language. J was never there. Even today, the Hebrew alphabet has no J. The Greek alphabet has no J. The J was the last letter that was introduced into the English language late in the 1500s. And the J letter came because a Catholic monk by the name of Galileos was experimenting with the I and put the hook on the bottom of the I and made it a J. That's how the J letter came into the English language. So his name was never Jesus. His name was and is Yahshua, which means Yahweh is salvation. Yahweh saves. And if we remember, even in the Gospels, when Matthew and Mark talk about the angel visiting Mary, and her real name was not Mary, that's the English word, but her true name is Miriam, and that's the Hebrew word. When the angel appeared to her, he distinctly said, "You will have a son. His name shall be called Yahoshua," meaning Yahweh saves, because he continued by saying, "He shall save his people from their sins." So his name tells who he is.
Revelation 2:9-10. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say that they are Israel and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. True. Obadiah Yisrael of the Hebrew Israelites in Chicago points out that one of the facts Scriptures gives us about Israel in regard to their physical appearance is that Israel is described as physically looking like the sons of Ham in appearance. Ham was one of Noah's 3 sons. Shem and Japheth were the other 2. Noah's descendants repopulated the earth after the great flood. Ham's descendants are traced to families of Africa. Ham, Quam in Hebrew, means black, hot, and burnt. Ham had 4 sons. Cush, Ethiopians, Cushites, and Ham, Egyptians, and Kemet, and Phut, ancient Somalia. All four of Ham's sons and their descendants settled in and around the continent of Africa. This includes the so-called Middle East, which is also part of the continent of Africa. Ham's sons are the people of the African continent, the ancient Egyptians, Ethiopians, Somalians, Canaanites, etc. The Israelites are descendants of Noah's son Shem through Abraham. He is the father of the Hebrew Israelite nation. Abraham is the father of Isaac. Isaac is the father of Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons, and these sons are the patriarchs of the Israelite nation. The 12 tribes of Israel are as follows: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Zebulun, Issachar, Joseph, Benjamin.
The children of Israel were the children of Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. Jacob's name was changed to Israel because he had an encounter with an angel. Okay? In the land of Canaan, where they lived, there was a famine in the land of Canaan. One of Jacob's son, who was Joseph, which we call today Joseph, Joseph was sold as a slave into Egypt. Being a Hebrew Israelite, he served Yahweh. He trusted Yahweh because that's what he was brought up to love and serve Yahweh. He trusted Yahweh. And because while he was in Egypt of his faithfulness to Yahweh, he won favor with Pharaoh and all the people of Egypt. And so when Pharaoh had a dream and could not interpret the dream, they called for Joseph. And Joseph came and he interpreted the dream, and he made it explicitly clear to the king that we're going to have some years of plenty. We're going to have some years of drought. He said, but you know, the years of plenty, if we take all that we harvest and store it up, we will have enough to take us through the lean years. And the king was so pleased. He said, Joseph, you're going to be in charge of all this, taking care of all this and see that this is done. And while Joseph was there, his brothers forgot all about him because they sold him. And their father didn't realize that Joseph was still alive because they went home and lied to their father and said, a wild beast killed him. But Joseph, his heart, his mind, everything was serving Yahweh. And he won favor. And his favor is what caused him to be able to reunite with his father and his brothers. His brothers, when they came down to get food, Joseph immediately knew it was his brothers, but they couldn't recognize him. Why? Because he was now dressed in an Egyptian apparel. And they're black paper. He recognized his paper.
Obadiah Yisrael of the Hebrew Israelites in Chicago points out that if Joseph and the Hebrews looked like Donny Osmond, who portrayed Joseph in a stage play, his brothers would have recognized him easily among the black Egyptians. But Joseph's own flesh and blood brothers thought he was an Egyptian. The ancient Egyptians of Joseph's time were indeed what we know today as black. This is a fact attested to by many.
When Joseph became governor of Egypt, and he went to Pharaoh after making acquaintance with his brothers, went to Pharaoh and told Pharaoh, look, my family, my dad, my brothers, they all, I want to bring them here because they're suffering over there. And Pharaoh was just happy to get Joseph's family down into Egypt. And these are Pharaoh's words. Bring them and we will give them the best in Egypt. Hallelujah. And so Joseph, Pharaoh sent carts to transport Joseph's father, his brothers, his wives, their wives, and their children. There were 66 people in all that left Canaan and went to Egypt. Hallelujah. But what happened is, while Joseph was there, he was the favorite to war of Egypt. And all the nations around, everybody knew Joseph because he was the man next to the king. And when the brothers came and they all settled there, after Pharaoh died, the new king did not know anything about Joseph. He did not know Joseph. So he didn't take to Joseph very quickly. And so Joseph had problems with
if they remain in fellowship with this world. From 1880 to 1930, more than 3,500 blacks were lynched or executed, but no one has ever been convicted of any of these horrendous crimes. Nevertheless, this nation called America, that Dr. King knew was on fire and under God's ultimate judgment, told us that we must be firemen and put out the fire in the masses' house. 2 Thessalonians 2:8 through 12, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom Yah shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause Yah shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. In a book entitled Two Nations, Black and White, Separate, Hostile, Unequal, by Professor Andrew Hacker, he writes, most whites will protest that they bear neither responsibility nor blame for the conditions blacks face. Neither they nor their forebearers ever owned slaves, nor can they see themselves as having held anyone back or down. Today, the younger generations of whites resent being held morally or financially responsible for the racial sins of their ancestors. Even though as whites, they still enjoy the inherited advantages and privileges of slavery. The lynching of black people was a brutal combination of racism and sadism used by whites to terrorize blacks in order to Africa to the Americas, where the conditions on the slave ship were horrifying, with between 200 and 400 captives crammed into the bottom of the ships. Zechariah 11:5, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. White Americans coined the phrase Negro barbecues. They were carried out when white mobs set out to burn black Americans alive or burn their dead bodies after a lynching. This helped to strengthen the conviction that blacks were less than human or on the same level as the wild beasts of the field. Newspapers even carried headlines like, Colored Man Roasted Alive, while explaining in graphic detail the slow, systematic, agonizing death of the helpless victim. Crowds, including women and children, traveled for miles to witness this blood sport, with school administrators delaying classes to allow both male and female. So it was that ever subdued conscience. Already slaves had been introduced into Georgia from South Carolina as hired servants under indentures for life or for 99 years. And at Savannah, the continual toast was the one thing needful, which meant Negro slaves. Slavery was introduced on the condition that all masters should be obliged to compel the Negroes to attend at some time of the Lord's Day for instruction in the Christian religion. In 1752, the charter was surrendered to the crown. The colony had all the privileges accorded to others and flourished. Keep in mind that the King and the Queen of England are Catholic and held that the Lord's Day was Sunday and that those who owned slaves would instruct them on this day. However, Yah commanded that his people worship on the Sabbath, which is Saturday. Once again, we find ourselves agreeing and worshiping on the day that our tormentor and former colonial slave masters commanded us to worship. My friends, obedience to Yah's word is better than any sacrifice you may present to him. The question must be asked, who in their right mind would assist a murderer, kidnapper, child molester, and rapist? Only but the delusional so-called Negro. The very history of America identifies itself as the spawn of Satan, the adversary of the Almighty, the Antichrist, the beast, and the great war spoken about in the book of Revelation. We as a people have certainly fulfilled Dr. King's fears, but we have certainly been integrated into a burning house, and the children of the Almighty are called to lead the evacuation.
Yeah.